Hello, this is Becca from Willow Hill Designs. I hope everyone is doing well, and today I am sharing the prompt for Roxy's Journal, Journal of Stitchery, Volume 4, and the prompt is Nature or Botanical. And I'd just like to say quickly thank you very much to my new subscribers. Thank you for joining me on this journey. And for those who are new, I'll just show quickly the prompts that have been done already. And the first was our initial. And so that is my initial. And this prompt was favorite or vintage lace. And this is King Victor Emmanuel, and I explain about why I chose that cigarette silk. And this is favorite fabric, and I love this fabric, and I love these little mice from Beatrix Potter's story. And this prompt was love, and that's how I interpreted that. This prompt was vintage embroidery, and this is an embroidery from my childhood. When I was 10, I made this, and then just added all of that around it. And lastly, our last prompt was trim or vintage trim, and so that was my interpretation there. And now for these past 2 weeks, the prompt was nature, and this is what I have done for nature. And I'll just share quickly that this was my inspiration for this piece because I just looked at this. This looks like a little pillow, little stuffed pillow, and I just looked at this and I see nature. I just think of nature when I see this. I see the beautiful outdoors, and I love, love, love the outdoors, nature, being outdoors in the country, not around in any cities, but outdoors in the country. So this to me speaks of nature. And this is a little sketch that I drew of my hexagon just to kind of give me an idea for scale and where to place things. And so from there, I worked from there. And the house fabric is this. I'm not sure if I showed this in my last video or not. Love this little fabric, and this is really all I have left of it. Just this little piece. There was a different fabric underneath, but I put that over it, and so here it is. And I left some of these raw edges on this fabric down at the bottom as well. And the roof is wool. I showed that in my last video, and so is the chimney. And then for the foreground, I used some batiks here to kind of give a little bit of interest and maybe some rolling hills. And then this is a cotton behind those. These mountains are batiks, and then the sky fabric is a cotton. And I love it. I think it's a beautiful piece of fabric. I guess you could use it for water as well, but I loved it for the sky. And so from there, I decided, once I composed the background, I decided that I would embroider all the elements. And so for the trees, let's see, I'll just share quickly what I used. This is Impressions, and this is 50% wool and 50% acrylic. It's really beautiful. It just glides through the fabric. That was nice for the trees. And this is a silk by Caron. Let's see, it's a 12-ply silk, and this really was perfect for the cattails and the reeds here. And then I just used DMC floss for the trees and the flowers and the other little elements in there. And one other thing I used was, two other. I used some of this wool. This is Aurifil wool. 50% wool, 50% acrylic. And that was, I used that for the stems here. And then I also used some of this Valdani variegated thread, and I think this is a, looks like a 12 to me. I use that to couch down here. So, oh, and this was also used for the chimney to add some bricks. And this is a chameleon thread. I believe these are dyed in Australia. And this I used for the flowers on the bush in front of the house. So the trees are done with an outline stitch, and both of the trees are done with an outline stitch, and the leaves are done with all 6 strands of floss, and I just took 1 stitch, and if it looked a little bit thin I would take 2 for those. And then these flowers here, I did lots of French knots for those in DMC. And these little leaf portions of the flowers are that Valdani variegated thread, which is really pretty. It just gave it a nice, they weren't just a static color, the color changed and it was pretty. This is the same thread that I couched down here to just add a little interest to the landscape. And then these are just 2 different colors of embroidery floss that I used to make the bush look like it had highlights and shadows. And these are all French knots. And the flowers on here are this chameleon thread. That's a number 12 pearl cotton. And I love the variegation in that. That, to me, just kind of gave some interest to this little bush. And then the greenery here is outline stitch, most of it. And this is the wool, the darker green here. And then some messy French knots. And they have just a little tiny center of that deeper purpley pink in the center. And then down here I did some French knots. In the original picture, they had some yellowish gold French knot flowers there, which were very pretty. I decided to do this, and this is a mix of, let's see, I think I had 2 strands of the lighter rose color and then 1 strand of a cranberry color in the wool, just to give them sort of a little dimension. And then over here I did some cattails, because really the little beaver that we always saw at the pond near our house was always swimming over to the cattails and taking the tubers from underneath, these white tubers, and would swim back to his house and eat them, or sometimes he would eat them on the bank there. But so I added a few patches of cattails, and those were done with the wool thread as well, just 1 strand of that. This Impressions. Oh no, I'm wrong. I am wrong. That was done with a little tiny ball, and I don't think I have it here. A little ball of brown, darker brown wool thread for the little cattails. And then these little kind of wispy patches of grass are done with some dyed cheesecloth that I have. It's a green cheesecloth, and I liked it. It just kind of added a little something to this little landscape here. And on the house, I just did some windows with an outline stitch and a satin stitch here for the windows, and just drew some lines to look like the panes. There might be some shadow or light shining on them. So on the 3 windows, and then I sort of accentuated this front facade, differentiated from the side of the house. And then under the eaves, I stitched with a brown wool, again to just kind of give it some depth. And then along the rooftop, I did some little kind of back stitches, I guess you would say, to kind of look like a corrugated tin roof on that. And then up here on the chimney, I'm not sure if you can see that, but on the chimney I used the this kind of a plum aubergine color for the bricks on the chimney to just give that a little definition. And then lastly, I added the geese in. They weren't in this original photo, but I just felt nature, especially now. I'll hear geese flying overhead, flocks of geese honking as they go, as they're flying south, and I love to hear that, and to me that is just nature. So I added in 3 Canadian geese here, and I used a variegated, again, silk for that. This is Weeks Dye Works, and this is Pelican Gray, and this is a variegated thread, and I just used 1 strand for the geese because they were tiny and far away. And there's a little oh gosh, chain stitch for the head, some straight stitches, and some back stitches here for the wings and the body. And then I added this little beaver on here because, again, the prompt was nature. So to me, the little animal and the geese definitely speak of nature, and the whole scene speaks of nature to me. I was going to make the trees green, but then I thought it's fall, and maybe I'll remember that this was done in the fall. I took this little beaver from this piece of fabric. I have, it's kind of like a canvas, a lightweight canvas fabric, and there's moose on it, and squirrel, bear. Here's a bear here, but I decided to take the little beaver off, but he was a little too gold for my liking. So I decided to color him with some Derwent pencils and just make him more of a brown color. Beavers that are here are darker, but I felt that this color went a little bit better with my landscape. So that is my offering for this prompt, nature or botanical. I'll just give you a close-up of that. And I really love this one. I could just get lost in that scene. I love that. I am happiest when I am out in nature. And so this for me is really fun. So that is this last prompt. And then the next prompt, which I am late on again, is buttons. And so I thought I'd share what I'm thinking of doing on this. And this is a branch coming down. Let's see, there's a couple of branches here coming down, and I was going to embroider these first, but I decided to start laying out the buttons, so I guess I'll embroider after. And I used some of Tilda's buttons in here for my inspiration for the colors, and so I'll be stitching these buttons down and come up with something for this little. I may add in some little doilies, I'm not sure. So that will be the prompt for this coming 2 weeks. We're actually doing that prompt right now. And just as a little extra, I thought I would show my new needle book that I am working on. My other needle book is getting very small because I keep my thimble in there and my scissors, and I keep pins in there and needles in there, and it was just getting very crowded. And so I had this scarf that was my brother's. We lost my brother last year, very tragically and suddenly. But this was one of his wool scarves, and I just loved it. Loved this scarf. So I took this scarf and I folded it in half so this would fold out. so it was doubled, and I just stitched all the way around the outside of this scarf, folded in half, and then I folded this portion up to make a pocket. So in here I can keep needles, extra needles that haven't been used or bent. If I use very fine needles a lot, and a lot of times after much use they'll get bent. And I put a magnet on here for my scissors, to hold my scissors. And I also have a little thing in here for pins. In my other one, my other little needle book, I was keeping my pins always on needle pages, and they would catch on threads and things. So this has a little magnetic piece in there, and they just stay in there. So if I have to pin something down like applique, this comes in handy. So that fits in there as well. And then I have another little magnet here for more needles that I might be using. This will be for my, I'll stitch this down. This will be for my needle threader, which I don't use very often unless I'm using a very thick thread and it doesn't go through easily. And this little pocket I stitched across here to make this little pocket for needles, for new needles. These are chenille 22. And I'll put other needles in there. And this is one of my favorite thimbles that I use all the time. Oh, I cut myself doing some outdoor work. And so this goes in this little pocket right here. And I just stitched again. I did a little stitch here to create this pocket. And I'll keep my thimble in there, and that'll be handy. And at the same time, if I want to, I can put needles and pins in this wool if I want to. If I'm working on something and I just need to pop a pin in temporarily, I can pop pins right in this wool and take it out. And so to decorate the front, I chose this piece of orange wool, and I had this little kitty. This is actually has fusible stabilizer or fusible adhesive on the back. And I'm going to iron this little kitty to the orange pumpkin, beautiful hand-dyed wool by the Mary Hooker on Etsy. She has gorgeous, gorgeous wool. And so I'll sew this little kitty down and do some kind of decorative stitching around this. I haven't decided yet. And originally I was going to do this on here, this moose, because I know my brother would love that. But when I saw the kitty, I had to go with that on the cover. So the moose is still here, but the moose will be sewed on the back. And again, I'll do some sort of decorative stitching on this. But this is just so nice and big and just affords me lots of room. And I did do some, when I stitched all the way around, I did do some stitching down the length of the scarf when it was folded in half. So that stabilized it even further. And then folding it in half, I stitched on each end here and here. And this will be stitched down. This is wool as well. So I love this. And I'll be using this from now on, I think more so than my other little one, just because I can keep so much more in there. And it'll be handy. So I thought I'd share that because it might be an idea that you'd like to try if you have a beautiful wool scarf that you're not using. And you can make a beautiful needle book out of it. I was thinking I may put a handle on this side. And I think to do that, I would need to stabilize it. So I may put I have a piece of bamboo stick here. I may put a piece of bamboo stick, and that will stabilize that edge if I put a handle it'll help it to stay rigid. So that's a thought as well. But I thought I'd share that idea in case anyone else would like to try to make a humongous needle book out of a scarf. So anyway, I am all done with the nature and botanical prompt, and I will be moving on to work on the button soon. So thank you very much for joining me today, and I'm wishing you many blessings, and I'll say bye for now.